Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live video for the damage report. Before we get into the topic, which should be pretty clear from the title, I want to give two major disclaimers. The first is that I am incredibly sick, so please bear with me. The second is that I feel an obligation as a person who takes the news seriously to report on the development of this morning, particularly because I had my suspicions yesterday. But as I go through this information, I want you to understand that for all of the fact that multiple sources are going with what apparently has been confirmed by multiple representatives of the U.S. government, that does not necessarily mean that what they are saying is true, particularly in regards to sort of affirming that Iran has done something horrific. And at this time, you should have all of your skepticism, even if, as we alluded to on the show yesterday, it definitely did seem suspicious at the time. Don't take anything for granted. Now, that said, I will run through what has been reported this morning, but let's keep all of that in the background as we go through this. And before I jump into it, actually, for those of you who have already joined the live video, please consider moving your cursor on down to that like button and giving it a nice little hello. That would be nice to make sure that everybody knows this live video is actually going on. So I had initially seen, as many of you might, that Newsweek had an article about how unmentioned anonymous officials in the U.S. government had confirmed that they were now running with the belief that Ukrainian International Airlines Flight 752 had not been the victim of mechanical failure, that it had, in fact, been shot down, although likely accidentally. And then over the course of about the last hour, that began to proliferate to other sources. So according to CBS News, U.S. officials are now confident that it was shot down by Iran. U.S. intelligence picked up signals of the radar being turned on and satellite-detected infrared blips of two missile launches, followed shortly by another blip of a perceived explosion. The aircraft is believed to have been struck by a Russian-built Tor M1 surface-to-air missile system known to NATO as Gauntlet. And so they have a little bit more information. That's getting into technical stuff that probably doesn't matter all that much. The belief is that, assuming that all of what these officials are saying, and Christina says, how the hell do you shoot down a plane by accident? The idea, I guess, hypothetically, is that at this time, Iranian air defense would be on, maximum alert. And in theory, a passenger airliner, maybe to some forms of radar, might not be that dissimilar from some bombers in the U.S. Air Force. So it's possible that it was misidentified and shot down, or it could have been, I don't know anything plausible beyond that. I can't imagine how automated something like this would be, although that, I guess, is one of the theories, too. So to answer Christina's question, I would say I don't really know. I don't know how you would not have checks and double checks and triple checks. Unless the going theory in the Iranian military was at any second after we launch these missiles, the U.S. might fly a bomber and drop a nuke. If that is the only thing that could justify the level of hair trigger preparedness that would seem to be required for some sort of accident like this to actually happen. But again, I will say this, and I'll probably say it about 1,000 times today. Just because this is what they're saying now, hold on 1 second. Gabby's saying that particular model 737 is essentially the same aircraft as the P-8 Poseidon surveillance aircraft flown by the U.S. Navy. Thank you. I definitely appreciate that. If they believe that it was just surveillance aircraft, it seems like you'd probably want to double and triple check that before shooting it down. Especially because if the idea was that their missile launches against the two U.S. bases was intended to show their capability while minimizing loss of life, so that they wouldn't necessarily escalate the conflict with the U.S., shooting down a surveillance aircraft would be a massive escalation. And so, again, and as AR-21 says, U.S. intel, must be right then. Exactly, that is what I'm saying. Look, I think that the night of when it happened, when the plane went down, I think a lot of people thought, well, if that is a mechanical failure, then that's a coincidence for the history books that would happen in this particular area at that particular time. But that does not mean that even if we think that something non-mechanical happened, that it is the way it is being portrayed right now. Especially considering, as we said yesterday on the show, the history between our two countries, passenger airlines, and all of that. So bear all of that in mind. I mean, you normally should not trust much coming out of the U.S. government, but I would say that in particular now, with the bizarre motivations underlying virtually everything that's happened in this conflict over the past week or so, you should have like tripled um, screens against everything that you hear or are told, and especially when these Pentagon and senior U.S. officials are saying. They are saying that it's accidental, understand that, but they're not going on the record. Trump was asked about it this morning, and he said, I had my suspicions it was flying over a rough neighborhood. What are you talking about? It was like the suburbs of Tehran. What do you know about the neighborhood? You don't know anything about anything. And so it is likely that Donald Trump doesn't know anything about this, but don't trust anything coming out of him either. And so, look, there are other details. It seems sort of unimportant. What is important is, regardless of whether it was a mechanical failure or that it was shot down, it is like everything else that we've been talking about since the killing of Qasem Soleimani, like our fears about the war and everything. Like, there's been a lot of fear, but of the actual things that have happened since then, this overshadows that so much. And it's like sort of a side story, I guess, because it wasn't a military aircraft, because the people on the plane weren't, generals in the U.S. military and the Iranian military. But when I think about what the experience of those people must have been like, there's nothing, at least to me, nothing more horrific than the idea of having to live through a plane crash like that, whether it was mechanical or whether it was shot down. It's 176 people, a mixture of Iranians, Canadians, Ukrainians, Swedes, Afghans, 3 German nationals, no survivors, just absolutely horrendous. And the thing is, like, assuming that it wasn't mechanical, assuming that it was shot down, whether it was by Iran or not, whether it was intentional or not, it didn't have to happen. Like, it can be an accident, it can be whoever's fault, but this situation would not have developed if not for everything that happened over the past week. And all of those people, lots of them students, there's apparently a large number of Iranian students who go to college in Canada. They had nothing to do with this. They had no interest in this, but they're dead all the same. And maybe we'll figure out exactly what happened, but it won't be any consolation to the people that know them. What a goddamn stupid waste of life. Waste of everything. The news is so depressing sometimes. We're just like a week into this year, and it's already one of the worst ones, I feel like. Baby Yoda says, and this is not World War III. How? Well, thankfully there's been no nuclear missiles launched, so that's good. Akash says, Trump's 200-plus federal judges versus Bernie video, please. I didn't see that, but yes, I do often remind people of how much long-term damage is being done to our country in terms of Trump's nominations to the federal judiciary. God, I don't know. I'm trying to get an idea. Well, thank you, Cappy. I like this jacket too. It's comfortable. Anyway, so in about 20 minutes, the full show is going to happen. We're going to have a congressional candidate going to join us. We've got a great director who's going to join us as well. We're going to be going through a couple different things. One, some of the fallout from the briefing yesterday, which was apparently a shit show. We're also going to have Ilhan Omar being attacked quite a bit, and a huge number of big endorsements of Bernie Sanders over the past 24 hours. So I'm going to run through some of those. My apologies. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have asked you, how is everyone's 409ks doing? What is this world we live in? Have you not seen, some of you I'm sure have seen this. Trump's tweet, all caps. Stock market at all-time high. How are your 409ks doing? 70%, 80%, 90% up? Only 50% up? What are you doing wrong? The typo is the least crazy thing in that entire tweet. The fact that it's coming from the president, that it's in all caps, that he thinks that our 401ks have gone up by 90% is insane. And I know that the message is not for me, that it's designed for someone who supports him, who is going to interpret everything he says in the most charitable fashion for him. But no Trump supporter is reading that and thinking, yeah, my 401k is up 90%. It won't be. It just won't. And so when he ends his tweet, only 50% up, what are you doing wrong? I mean, what do his supporters think when they see that? Because all of them are apparently doing something wrong, according to him. He's not attacking me. He doesn't care about my 409k. He's attacking all of his own supporters who, just by virtue of the fact that the stock market doesn't work in the land of spells and dreams that he apparently thinks it does, they will all come up short according to their God Emperor and his decrees on social media. Insane. But how are your 409ks doing? I have a 401k. I mean, look, so I thankfully am in a position where I've been able to put stuff into my 401k over I believe the last 2 years, the only time that I've actually had it. And it has gone up a little bit. It hasn't gone up anything like any of those numbers. Even his lowest bar, the 50%, where he thinks that you should be spit upon, mine isn't anywhere near that. What is he talking about? We gotta nominate the right person. I swear to God. If I sit through this next debate and through the primaries and caucuses, and if America makes the wrong decision and I have to sit through the general election with Buttigieg or something, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to quit. I'm probably going to quit. Maybe if we win, I might quit anyway. I don't think I can take victory, let alone defeat. Oh, God. Make the pain stop, world. Do you ever wish that you were dumber because then stuff wouldn't bother you as much because you wouldn't recognize it, you wouldn't notice it as much? Or that you paid less attention just so that you wouldn't know? Ugh. Ignorance is bliss. They do say that. Quote that. Ignorance is bliss. Edwin. You heard it here. No, but he's right. And yet Trump doesn't seem happy. So that kind of, that disproves it, I think. That's true. Yeah. Ignorance is bliss unless your wife hates you, I guess. Anyway, okay, everybody. Thank you for joining me for this. We're going to be watching to see what develops in this story. We're going to see what happens. We'll probably never know. I doubt that the black button, the black box has a readout for, yeah, we just got struck by accident by an Iranian Russian-built missile. Maybe we'll have some more details. I don't know. But anyway, just like I said, huge grains of salt, a whole bunch of them, a big pile of grains of salt as we go forward, considering how consequential the narrative that we end up on this incident, very important going forward. And theoretically, here, I mean, one of the fears, I guess, that's been unstated is that it could be used for further, to justify further aggression against Iran. So just bear all that in mind. Anyway, okay. I'm going to go drink heavily to become at least temporarily ignorant and thus blissful. But I will see you in just a little bit for the show. Hope to see you then.